U.S. President Donald Trump has called on Iran to surrender as speculation mounts that Washington is mulling joining its ally Israel in direct military action against Tehran. Mr. Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the U.S. military deployed more aircraft to the Middle East, including fighter jets and refueling tankers. The focus is on Iran's key nuclear facility at Fordo, which is underground. It's so deep that Israeli bombs apparently cannot reach. That's without U.S. help. The Jerusalem Post cited sources familiar with internal U.S. discussions as saying Fordo will be a primary target if America joins the fight. For more insight, let's speak now at Al Meiraz. He's a senior lecturer of peace and conflict studies at the University of Sydney. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor. Let's start with President Trump's messaging here. He's demanding Iran's unconditional surrender and rejecting ceasefire. It also saying he won't target Iran's supreme leader for now. What exactly is he signaling with this mix of threats and restraint?
Well, I think less and less analysts are willing to stake their reputation on trying to whisper Trump, but certainly a lot of noises coming out of the US recently. I think the Trump administration is at the moment stuck between two camps among its base. The populists are adamantly against any kind of unprovoked US intervention, while the old guard among the Republican Party are more supportive of Israel. So how will that play out is difficult to tell, but I think the risks now to an American intervention remain the same, that Iran may target US assets or US allies in the Gulf, and the Americans are, I think, cautious about that, which doesn't prevent Trump from making all kinds of threats and so on.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that ambiguity is certainly feeding uncertainty, especially after Trump posted that we have complete and total control over the skies of Iran. Given that, of course, and reports that he's now weighing direct military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, what would it actually take for Trump to shift from indirect support of Israel to full U.S. military involvement? Is there a clear threshold?
I think the targeting of any kind of U.S. assets, and it could be U.S. military or, again, allies in the Gulf, but whether that could be, an intentional Iranian action or a mistake, either could happen. I don't think the Iranians would like the Americans to join in. They have their hands full as it is, even with the Israelis. So I don't see Iran doing it on purpose, but things can deteriorate anytime.
And Mr. Trump reportedly sees U.S. bunker buster bombs as key leverage. Just how effective is this kind of military capability as a negotiating tool, do you think? Could it push Iran to the table?
Look, I think it will not push Iran to the table, but I think the question around, the Fordo installation and the ability of these 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs to actually destroy that facility is on many people's mind, and you can hear different arguments, but certainly the Israelis cannot destroy, at least not destroy, that installation without these bombs, and they don't have them. So the idea behind the Israeli attack of trying to destroy the whole nuclear Iranian system, which I don't think is feasible, will depend, or at least some of it will depend on the joining of the Americans in relation to that particular installation.
Okay, so if the U.S. does strike Iran directly, whether it be nuclear or leadership targets, what would be the likely fallout? Are we looking at a wider, possibly multi-front conflict across the region?
Look, I think the only ones really to join potentially and therefore escalate what is taking place now are on one side the Americans, and on the other Hezbollah in Lebanon, which had said that they won't join. The Lebanese government and army are pressuring them not to do that in fear of an Israeli retaliation. So I think, yes, the Americans may join, but again, only in case of damaging U.S. assets. Otherwise, I think the Israelis are saying that they have 1 week left for their campaign. The Iranians obviously are in a bad position, but in terms of their honor and dignity, but also deterrence, they are not ready to go back to the negotiating table. And by deterrence, I mean not only externally, but also domestically within Iran against the dissidents and the anti-regime people in Iran itself.
Report seems to suggest that there are diplomatic tracks still open. The White House is discussing with Iran the possibility of a meeting this week. If Mr. Trump is angling for a deal, what might that deal look like, especially when he's rejecting the idea of a ceasefire?
Trump is using, an unconditional surrender. I think the Iranians would never go with that. But the question is, when and what will make the Iranians agree to going back to the negotiation? And I think that a lot depends on how they can project what they're doing as not defeat, but as victory, or at least not a full defeat. This will take time, I think, some days more before they're ready to do that, or depending on any kind of escalation. But Iran is a huge country, 90 million people. It has a solid system and well protected at the moment, at least by the Revolutionary Guard, not only by the army. And so a lot will depend on what happens within Iran between the hardliners and the moderate, as well as with the Americans.
Yeah, if I can follow up on that in regards to Iran's internal situation, that we've seen reports and calls from the exiled son of the former monarch urging an uprising. This, of course, the current leadership is hollowed out amid a focused targeting by Israel's military. Could that be a sign of unrest gaining traction inside Iran? Just how seriously should we take the idea of regime change right now?
I think that depends on who you listen to. Al Jazeera is claiming that there is a very strong rally around the flag effect in Iran as consequences of the Israeli attack, while the Israelis are saying that the anti-regime or anti-Islamic revolution camp in Iran is divided between those who say we are facing an external enemy, and those who say, well, this is now the regime at its weakest, and we should use that. But for mass people to come out into the streets, I don't think they're ready for it. There needs to be great anger, and that anger is not there at the moment. So only the ability of the camp to mobilize is not there yet, I think.
Okay, Dr. Meiraz, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much for your insight this morning. Eyal Meiraz, Senior Lecturer of Peace and Conflict Studies at the University of Sydney.